I'm Samuel Donner, the host of An Unconventional Life. We're a podcast about people that have escaped the 9-to-5. And with me today, I have Tim Connors, serial entrepreneur and CEO of Purl. Tim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm super stoked to be here. I'm working on a new project, super excited to talk about it.
Yeah, and I actually, wanted to get to that project eventually, but I wanted to hear a little bit about how you got started and what events led to what you're doing now.
Jumping the gun a little bit.
Yeah.
For sure. Let's dive into that a little bit. So as a little introduction, I've always kind of been working on my own projects for the last half a decade, and my intro into entrepreneurship was with a graduation gown company in college. Basically, we were offering the students at UCLA a way to get their graduation gown for a huge discount compared to the school bookstore. And I just started out on the street corner passing out gowns, and that was kind of like my intro into this world.
What inspired you to want to even start doing that? Like why not just say, all right, I'm gonna get really good grades and work at Deloitte or something?
Right. Yeah. So I kind of tried that, and I interned for a consulting company, and it so turned me off. And I think that I kind of as a synopsis of what drove me to entrepreneurship is that it was as much of a pull towards entrepreneurship as it was a push away from the alternative lifestyle. And that's not to knock on people working 9-to-5, but I saw a lot of my peers go into that world and really, I would see their fire die. And so that honestly scared me, and it felt like that
you needed to stoke that fire in some way to keep it alive.
I kind of felt it was my prerogative to find another path for myself. And so that's kind of how I was looking for some idea when I was in college, and I found the most unsexy, unflashy business ever. I was on the street corner wearing a cap and gown, looking like a dork, passing out these things to people. And that was my first thing. We sold 1,000 in the first season of that business, and I couldn't be more stoked about it. We didn't even make that
validate
much,
everything that you were doing. You're okay, I'm actually on a path that could lead somewhere.
Yeah, totally. I was like, oh my God, this is my way. This is my path, my escape. And so, yeah, that was kind of that's kind of how it all began. And I've tried not to look back since. I was about to say I've never looked back. That would be a lie.
I feel in the world of entrepreneurship, so there's a lot of ups and downs and hills and valleys.
It's true. I'm sure we'll get into some of them.
So you were creating Grad Street. Where did you see the business grow from that first 1,000 caps and gowns?
Right. So yes, it's called Grad Street. I don't know if I mentioned that. Thank you. So we took that. We did it at UCLA. It was a super scrappy thing. We expanded the next year to 5 schools. Also a super scrappy thing. I was shipping out inventory to random students out of the schools, and they were passing it out at their school, crossing names off the list. It was a total mess, but it worked, right? And then third year, we switched to e-commerce. We were shipping everywhere, all across the country, 10 schools. It was really, really exciting. But honestly, there came a point during that third year where I was
is this what I want to be doing? Do I really want to be moving boxes around 24/7?
Exactly. I'll tell you, maybe this is TMI, but there was a point where I was at a warehouse with my inventory, and I realized that I needed to relabel 1,700 units with a different label in order for them to be shipped out. And so I literally slept in my car outside this warehouse for 3 days, peed in a bottle. It was the epitome of low, and I'm why am I here?
I feel it's not the glamorous lifestyle of
totally
entrepreneurship that you were expecting.
Yeah, so I was, for sure, I was able to kind of take a different path out of school, but I when push came to shove, I didn't have a really good question for why am I here right now. And so that caused me kind of start looking for new things.
So I feel when people think about entrepreneurship or just ideas in general, they think it was a stroke of inspiration. I was walking down the street and suddenly I came up with this idea. Was that idea that came next as serendipitous as that, or was it a kind of going through the dirt and kind of searching for that?
It was kind of both, honestly. So here I was, I had this business, I'd done it for 3 years, getting super jaded at moving boxes around. I couldn't bring myself to move another box. And so I kind of went back to square one, and I asked myself like what I was interested in and what sort of things frustrated me in the world. And all the while, this is me like shortly after college, and all the while I am talking to my friends, and that same kind of like frustration hit me again, where my peers were in like job positions that didn't fulfill them. And it's kind of crazy because we went to UCLA, we're blessed to have gone to UCLA, and we should be theoretically like some of the greatest candidates that you could hire.
Exactly.
And we're still we're still feeling that pain in the workforce. And I really don't think that everyone deserves that. It's a crazy world out there trying to get a job in 2019.
Yeah, wait, well, what did you like encounter first?
Well, people had to do crazy things to get in the door because the fact that the internet exists seems great for job hunting, but it makes it really tricky because now everyone in the country can apply to any job.
Dwelling on like the crazy things to get a job, I felt like similar things like coming out of college. I was at a loss of like where to go, you know, because I studied mechanical engineering in college.
Well, at least you did that.
And like I thought I was gonna be, or you know, I'm gonna get like a safe job at like one of like the big engineering firms. But then I realized that engineering is a little bit boring, and I was like, I really don't think I can just sit in front of a computer, just like, you know, creating some tiny component, some gear for hours and hours and years and years. And so I was like editing for Netflix at the time, and I'm like, I want to find something more creative. And I went on those job platforms that you're talking about, and I was just completely blown away by how bad they were. It was like impossible to navigate. And so I was, you know, still trying to use them and to no avail. I wasn't getting any interviews for the positions that I wanted.
It was a black hole.
It was a black hole. Like I felt like I was just chucking my resume into a fire and just watching it burn.
That's good.
And I was like, all right, something needs to change. And obviously these platforms aren't going to change, so I need to do something. And I was thinking, how can I set up these interviews instead of them setting up these interviews?
Okay.
And I racked my brain and I thought, podcast.
I see where we're going. Okay.
And so I was like, okay, let me start with someone, you know, I know kind of well, a really great entrepreneur, someone like smart, talented, handsome. Actually, it was this guy right here. This was my first guest on my podcast, and I produced a narrative podcast that really tried to sell the story of this person in a really interesting way. And I finished.
Unfortunately, I was not in a position to give you a job at Grad Street that time.
But, you know, it was a great episode. And I put it out there, and I got a lot of good reception. And I used that to get my next interview, which was the founder of American Apparel.
I remember.
Doug Charney, who is a very interesting guy, to say the least. But with that American Apparel interview, I kind of was able to reach this new tier of person. And I was able to look at any company that I wanted to work at and say, hey, this is something that I'm interested in. Let me talk to you. Let me talk to the CEO.
Let me interview for the
and the
podcast.
podcast is like such a unique form and a unique way to network. And I was like utilizing it to the best of my ability. And eventually I interviewed the founder of a company called Jumpcut, Kong Pham. And he was so impressed with the episode I put together that he's like, hey, can you create an Unconventional Life podcast for our company? And that's the podcast that we're listening to right now. And that's all to say, I don't think creating a podcast is the only or should be the only way to get a job in 2019. And I feel like there must be another way.
It's a great transition. It kind of seems like it's the only way. I love that story so much, though, because I feel like it embodies the creativity that you need to kind of get around in the workforce. Like, kind of like we're saying, it's a black hole. How do you get noticed? Obviously, you start a podcast, 2019, come on, right? Like,
yeah, just use some like Premiere, getting a bunch of guests, easy. It's easier than throwing your resume into the fire.
It tells your potential employer so much more about you as a candidate too.
Yeah, well, there's a human element that's lost in putting your resume in the fire.
There is a human element. Yeah. So, I guess to take that transition, that's kind of similar to spirit to what we're trying to do at Purl. So like at Purl,
So just to step back a little bit, you were saying how you were so, demoralized by how these platforms were treating your peers, and you were saying you didn't want to see that fire burn. So what were those next steps in trying to create something that would solve this problem? Or did you even think did you think immediately, this is a problem I need to solve? Like, I found it?
Right. So I'm recognizing the things that you're recognizing. I'm in that mental space. I know that there is a problem here. Anyone that looks at this space for like 2 seconds can know that there's a problem here. The fact is that the job seekers are just being just having a terrible experience because they're not the ones with the money, right? They will jump through any amount of hoops, and all these companies know it, and so they don't really give a crap about their experience. But that's like the wrong way of thinking about it, because that's a supply. That's the supply that you then sell to those companies, that talent. And I didn't really know what I was going to do, to be honest, but I knew that there was a problem here, and I knew that as long as I know there's a problem, I can walk in there and I could figure it out eventually through iterating.
I feel like that's also something interesting about entrepreneurship is you don't necessarily have to have an idea. It's more important to have a problem than an idea.
Totally.
And a problem that's real. You really need to flesh out the problem, make sure that problem exists, and then it's let's work backwards to see how I can solve it.
Yeah, the first step to any good business is a really, really good problem. You can get the solution later.
Yeah. And that's what you did.
Yeah, it is. So, what should I talk about next?
Yeah, so you were saying you found the problem, you realized job discovery, these job platforms are broken.
Yeah.
So how did you go about even trying to fix this?
Yeah, so I really felt like as I was saying, that the seeker experience was being overlooked.
And when you say seeker, you mean people that are
job seekers.
job seekers.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for clarifying. I felt that was being overlooked, and so and people are feeling like they're not being heard, I guess, is a good place to start. And so the story goes, I had this crazy idea. We're gonna build an app, right? That's what a startup looks like, right? I'm coming out of this e-commerce graduation gown thing, coming into something kind of techy and flashy. Oh my God, we're gonna build this mobile app. It's gonna be so exciting. It's gonna be this web interface. And while we're working on this, we have a team. It's this big thing. I'm tinkering on the side with this texting interface. And bless you.
Thank you.
I'm taking on the side of this texting interface, and I'm using it for market research. And eventually we kind of come to this humbling resolution that this texting thing is as good as anything. In fact, maybe it's better than a mobile app.
Wait, so you were building this texting platform all by yourself? Are you a programmer? Or
Not a programmer, no, but I was tinkering away. To this day, it's still kind of hacking put together, which is why I love it.
But you just saw it as a means to an end.
It was a means to an end. Why don't we text these people and find out what they were looking for in a job and use that to inform our mobile app? But no one wants to download another app. It was a total shot in the dark to build an app. Why don't we use this amazing learning machine that we've built already? And so that's kind of what we went from, is we had this moment where we said, hey, we've done all this work on this mobile app, but let's put it down, because this texting thing was working.
And I think one of the reasons probably why it was working is there's an intimacy to texting that there isn't in a mobile app. It's removed from your, it's one step removed from where you interact with all your friends and your family.
Yeah.
Whereas texting is here's the human element. Let me insert us, one of the jobs, something that you're gonna do for the majority of your time, into that human element, and let's share that human element together. Yeah,
totally. That's very well put. I think that recruiting is all about humans, and so a mobile app is very robotic. It doesn't have that human touch, and so to kind of squish in what we're doing now at Purl, we're trying to provide human-centric recruiting at scale. And what that means is balancing that conversational AI with a human touch that guides every conversation.
When you say conversational AI, what can you break that down for a sec?
Yeah, we're understanding who you are, using kind of pre-programmed languages to kind of navigate the first few steps of our process, and then handing it over to a human that will guide your recruiting experience. Mm-hmm. And the tools that we've built for ourselves at Purl allow us to kind of provide that personal recruiter feel to all of our candidates. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of our candidates that we're dealing with now are coming out of top universities. We can afford to provide that high touch to these people, as long as we can keep ourselves organized to kind of have all that information flow through one channel.
How can you afford to do that? Is it who's paying you? How are you making money? Like,
So we run like a normal staffing firm. We'll charge a placement fee from the employer. And it's super easy for us because we're just leveraging this talent that's coming out of great universities, and they're looking for jobs. And all we're doing is meeting them where they want to be met. These college students, they're working through finals and midterms and tests. They got a lot going on. So it's a lot easier for them to receive a text message that says, hey, Kevin, based on what we know about you, these are some jobs that would be really awesome for you.
and is there something special about this population of people? Like, what do they want? And like, why does a texting interface work so much better than a LinkedIn or an Indeed?
I don't know if text would have been the appropriate solution like for an older generation or 20 years ago, but the fact of the matter is like people are bombarded with apps and services, and the texting just simplifies things. And another thing that is really effective about our kind of like human touch is that people coming out of college today, they're looking for different things than the people that were entering the workforce a generation ago.
What are they looking for?
I would say that based on what we understand about our customer base, people coming out into the workforce today are more mission driven. They're more culture driven. They're looking to join a community and looking to make an impact. They're not just trying to be a cog in the machine. They're not just trying to stamp in and out and take their paycheck. They're trying to join, and like as the workplace and as the as work and life kind of like mesh further as we like go on with this technology, we're all on our phones all day. Our young generation enters the workforce, we better have a job that we really love.
Yeah, and I feel like so many people are passionate about like sustainability, for just one example, and people want to work for a company that is representative of those beliefs and that belief system. And like also another example I think is you mentioned the mesh between work and just like life. I think a lot of companies are providing more benefits to younger employees because they want that work-life thing to be more meshed, to be more blurred, because you actually get more productivity when people feel like when your work is integrated into your life, you are more productive because you're just like this is fun. This is like part of who I am. This is my identity. These people, this company believes in what I believe.
Right. There's so much corroborating research that says if we can make these employees feel like they're making an impact, like they're contributing to a mission that aligns with them, they're more likely to enter leadership roles, they're more likely to stay around longer, which is a really key point because employers are seeing really low rates of retention right now. As people enter the workforce and skip around, because we can see so many opportunities on the internet, people enter the workforce and skip around, and employers are left to kind of scramble to provide that better experience for them, and that's what we're seeing these days. And so it's all about making sure that you line up with the position that you're going into. And so employers love what we're doing because we're getting to know what the candidate wants, and they know that if we send them a candidate, it's because they want to work there, which is kind of a
how do you see this changing the whole platform, the whole world of job seeking and just company life in general?
So the way that I have been kind of like describing it recently to like friends is that what we're trying to do it, like I see this, like I guess the over dramatization of this is you have people out there that are working their jobs, they might be feeling a little unfulfilled. That's just the reality of things. And with just a simple sign-up process like a phone number and signing in with LinkedIn, those people have like someone on their side that's looking out for them. And so I kind of see at any moment they get this text on their phone and it says, hey, John, like I know it's been a couple weeks since we last spoke, but I just found this really awesome opportunity for you over here. And that person can now go and kind of like, show his Superman outfit and like go into that role that he was meant to be in, that he will find fulfillment in, that he will really love. And that's because he was able to kind of like outsource someone to go and make sure and find something that he was looking for. And so I'm hoping that we can build a world where people are excited to wake up every day and go to work because they've been able to get connected to somewhere that aligns with what they're looking to do.
Yeah, and I think, with that integration, when you're connected, you have like a world and a company that is aligning with those visions and then pushing more in a more streamlined way towards, whatever goal that they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
But, thank you so much, Tim, for coming on the podcast. It's super interesting talking to you about this, and I really think this is going to be revolutionary.
Thank you, Sam. It was awesome hearing your story too. For anyone that's interested, you can find us at trypurl.io.
Yeah, and an Unconventional Life podcast is everywhere podcasts are streamed and sold and listened to.
And yeah, thanks so much for having me, man.
Thank you.